Thanksgiving week is great, but it's also a little upsetting because everything decides to release on that specific time of the year. And so you have to end up doing multiple different things to talk about because some stuff is really, really great. And in this particular case, now we're going to be on video number 5 of this week. And that's actually not as exhausting as I thought it would be. I'm actually quite enjoying this. So without further ado, here we go. Wednesday is now streaming on Netflix, and I am surprised it took Tim Burton this long to get to the Addams Family. You would think this would be one of the first things he ends up doing because it's so much in his wheelhouse, and yet here we are, many, many years since his career started, and now we're getting to see something from that in his territory, so that's very interesting. This one stars Jenna Ortega as Wednesday Addams, and we follow the show, as you probably guessed, from her perspective. She's someone, obviously, who, as many people know, is a huge cynic, basically the goth girl of your nightmares, and as it turns out, she's being that in this show as well. And she goes to Nevermore Academy because Morticia and Gomez believe that it might be the best place for her, but when she gets there, things start going a little wrong, and there are some weird stuff happening, and it turns into a bit of a supernatural detective show. Wednesday is an interesting character because you can do a lot with that character despite the fact that it's a very one-note approach to it. But the idea of a one note is also fascinating because you can sort of play around with what exactly works emotionally and what doesn't, and try to factor in those moments in some interesting ways. And so one of the things that I was very excited to see was what Burton would bring to it, and I'm kind of glad that he managed to finally do something in this franchise because it's a very fun and entertaining show. It's not perfect. It has its issues, and I'll talk more about those in a minute, but I really did enjoy binging this entire thing because it is very binge-worthy. It definitely has that very, fun quality to it that keeps you watching, but a lot of that, in fact, 90% of that is attributed to Jenna Ortega, who is excellent as Wednesday. I've said this in a few reviews already, but the stuff that I've seen from her this year, this girl's gonna be a household name very, very soon. And I mean, it might just happen after this. She is fantastic throughout the entire run of this season, and she plays Wednesday to perfection. It's hard to kind of go up against someone you've already got established as Wednesday, like Christina Ricci, who is also in the show, by the way. But I think she very much holds her own, and the scenes that she does have with Ricci are pretty fun. It's actually cool seeing those two, play against each other, and you're kind of comparing notes in your head, like, okay, you've seen the OG Wednesday Addams, and you've seen this Wednesday Addams, and so in your head you can't help but sort of, compare and contrast notes. But Ortega is so good in this, and all the bizarre, vague, crazy things that she says and does, they work perfectly. Also really good in this is how they handle Thing. I really like this way they handle the puppet, and I'm assuming it's a puppet because it feels way too authentic and real at times in terms of the workings to be CGI the whole time, but they really did a great job with incorporating this hand along with Wednesday more times than often. Everybody in the show is honestly really good. It was great seeing Gwendolyn Christie play the headmistress of Nevermore. She plays this really fascinating woman, but she is very good in the show. You also, the stuff you get with Morticia and Gomez is really great. I mean, there's some genius casting there with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Luis Guzman. I honestly, again, one of those things which you kind of think should have happened a long time ago, but then you see it and you go, about time it actually happened. And they're both stellar in the roles that they're given. There is something to Gomez's character, which is a subplot, which doesn't really factor into every single thing, but regardless of that, I did really like what they did with those characters as well. And Burton's touches all over this. Like, you can definitely feel like he had his fingerprints across all 8 episodes, even though he only directed the first 4. But it does have that weird zany vibe to it, which is something that you would expect from a Wednesday Addams show. And I'm so glad that it manages to maintain that as long as it does. It's very quirky, it's well shot as well. The effects and imagery that you see, there's some creepy stuff in there. Not as creepy as I would have liked it to be, though. There are some things that I feel like they could have been like a little more touched upon, and you could have definitely gone a little further into doing a few things, but it doesn't quite do that. Also, I did really like the way it sort of juxtapose certain things. Like, it's apparently the modern world, but it's so like lost in time, this particular town, and they managed to capture that really well, but they still managed to throw in like modern lingo, like, oh, we're still in the modern world. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. Like, as long as the further you stay away from modern technology, the better this works. Even when it plays in so bizarrely. Like, everything feels out of touch to Wednesday because she's constantly away from a lot of things and a lot of people. But the show's heart and essence lies in the relationships that she builds up with people. But again, she's not an easy person to get across to, so how do you do that? And, it's handled in the way that you'd probably expect, but as the show progresses, the developing, relationships that she has, she goes from someone who everyone's like, stay clear of her, and I want to stay clear of you too, and then you eventually build up sort of a team-like thing. I thought it was really nicely done, and it worked very much with the essence of the show. There are some times, though, where I feel like the writing does go very conventional. Like, if you've seen a CW show or something like that, you definitely are going to see things in here and feel like, that's like a CW show. That definitely feels like it has those moments in there. And there are those times where it sort of takes you out of it. Like, okay, now I don't know whether or not I'm enjoying the show as much. But it finds footing again, and then it eventually changes course back to that. But yes, it does make a lot of decisions, and it does do a lot of conventional storytelling stuff, which you've seen 1,000 times before in young adult media. So don't expect something wholly like spectacular and original all the time. But a lot of the show is sort of led on the charms of the acting. The supporting characters, like I said, a lot of them are really, really good. The roommate that she has, Enid, played by Emma Myers, I believe is the actress's name. She's such a cute and funny character. Like, I love the dynamic that the two of them have going as the season progresses. It was really cool. But the show is also very self-aware in being constantly calling out the nonsense from time to time, and also subverting certain things. Like, there'll be a certain moment where you go, oh yeah, we've done this before, but then the show is smart enough to be like, yeah, we know, and so we're gonna call that out over here, or Wednesday's gonna call it out. But all in all, I did enjoy Wednesday. I think the writing could have been a better thing a few times. There are some plot lines which are not quite as interesting. There's a couple of episodes which are not quite as effective, and there are some things that could have been ironed out a little bit better. But overall, did I have fun watching it? Absolutely. Do I recommend seeing it? Definitely. Just see it for the performance alone. This girl, man, I'm telling you, there's a talent over here, and just for that, it is worth recommending. I'm gonna give Wednesday season 1 a B. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to more videos very soon, because there's a lot of that happening right now, and yeah, there's much more to cover still. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and a very happy streaming.